Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome back to Creating in Fortnite. I am your host, Dan Hutnick, and today I am joined by the one, the only, Eric Diaz, who's here to talk to us about building custom shops and UI for in-island transactions. Derek, people probably know who you are, but just in case they don't, let folks know who you are and what we're here to talk about today.
Hey Dan, thanks for having me for the intro. I'm Derek Diaz. I am a UX UI director at Epic Games. I've been working on UEFN and the foundations of our metaverse. I focus on UI systems and features that need UI. So I worked on building in-island transactions. And so I'm happy today to be talking about how we can use the in-island transactions features with the UI systems that we have to build awesome menus. I have a bunch of pretty cool UI examples that I look forward to share. I guess Dan, somehow it's just you and me today, which is awesome. So everyone gets to hear me talk on and on about all this. I'm happy to. I can talk about UI all day long, probably. Uh, um, that's about the scope of it.
I got a sneak peek of
Yeah.
the UI before the show, and I'm very excited for this one. I think this could be really, really, really cool. So definitely looking forward to it.
Well, I hope so. There's menus and shops are a there's a lot of best practices and principles of good design to follow. So throughout some of these examples, I'll try to talk through some of those best practices and principles and call me out. And there'll be a lot of opportunities too for if you're seeing bad principles on it. Mostly these demos are kit bashed together from various content that that we have. So most design we're going to show is the goal is to be simple and clean, although there are some more over the top examples. But really, when you're building like a menu for shops, you really want clarity. You want the player to understand exactly what is on offer, what of course, what things are like prices are. They want to understand what each item is that's available for purchase, for example. It definitely is the place to do good UX design, to do your best UX design, and just make really usable interfaces.
Yeah, UI is one of those things it's interesting because it seems simple at face value, but the more you dig into it and the more you do it, the more you realize there's so many little things that go into like making something feel intuitive, making something feel clear, easy to navigate, those sorts of things that I think a lot of people take for granted, right? Like how difficult it is to have something that just you get in there and you don't even think about the fact that you're interfacing with UI. It's just completely intuitive, completely natural, and then also has, as I'll certainly comment here as we get into it, some of those little polishes, those little visual flares that just make things feel snappy and satisfying to also use and interface with.
Oh yeah. Yeah, a classic rule, isn't it, when if you're not noticing anything in the UI, it was, it's a lot of care and detail went into building it that way.
Yeah, very similar to that visual effects adage. If you didn't notice that it was a visual effect, then they did their job.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Perfect. Well, I know we have a lot to cover here, and I'm really excited to jump into it. But before we do, I have a couple things real quick. If you have a question here for Derek about designing custom shops and UI in UEFN for in-island transactions, please leave those in the chat. Put in brackets question, followed by your question, and we will gather them up and throw as many of them as we can to him throughout the show. This show is specifically about the UI side of it. If you have any other general questions, about in-island transactions, please head over and check out the documentation, as well as we've also had a couple live streams over the past month that have talked much more in depth about the in-island transactions themselves. So if you have any questions about that, please go and use those resources. Otherwise, if you're interested in things and have questions strictly about the UI, please leave that here. That's what we're here to do, and very excited to do that. But before we do even that, I'm also going to throw into the chat a quick link. This is a link to a survey that we'd like you to fill out that is going to basically just give us ideas and things about upcoming streams, things you want to see more of, learn more about. So I'm going to throw that in the chat real quick, and then we can jump in. The text is too long to do in one message, folks. Give me 1 second. I have to break this into two. There we go. There and there. And we'll do the same thing here, and then we're good. Derek, are you ready to jump into the screen share and all that?
I am. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right.
good to go.
Are you seeing my screen?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Okay. So I'm just a Jonesy in a big empty world here. Okay, so what I'll be doing first is going through a bunch of menus basically to go through it. But before I even do that, let me show you talk about the default menu, because one of the principles in UEFN is that we want to give players good defaults. We want to make it really easy for developers to give players a good experience following good defaults. And so that's why we have a built-in menu as well. Now I'm going to show it through a handy feature called the debug commands menu. So I'm running a UEFN live session right now, the live version of UEFN. So I'm just going to debug commands, and so on this island, we have some verse code that creates a whole bunch of different entitlements, of different offers, and we're going to use them throughout these menus. So let me just show them in the default menu here. So we have a menu here, and this menu is built for console. So it's a list of options here, and I'm going to open up the storefront. The first option here, open storefront. I'm going to click on that. All right, so this is the default menu. You can pass it an array of all your offers. And through the debug commands menu, it's going to just take in the offers in your project. So the default menu lists items vertically, and it has the price and an icon and a description. And on the right is a detail section where it shows a larger version of the icon and the long description. And as you see, you can hover through these. It works on gamepad. So this is definitely a sort of a random assortment of items. They don't make a lot of sense because the menus I'll be showing are kind of all over the place. So it's just a common set of offers to look at.
It does make for a quite funny grocery list, though.
It does.
I need an
Yeah.
apple. I need a rocket launcher. I need a banana.
Yeah, we really need this game. Turbo Engine and Vortex Blade. Turbo Engine, and click on that, and it goes to the screen. Now, this is also a screen that is created by UEFN automatically. This is not a developer-made screen. Developers are not meant to be able to modify this screen except for the content that you're passing to it. And then this is where you can do your purchase, and I won't do that right now on this screen. And you can close this and go back to this. So, and again, this is also a built-in screen. This is not a UI that is created that you need to make as a third-party developer, or as a developer. You can just use this out of the box. Okay, so with that same data, I'll spare going into the verse code immediately. Let's just show some of these menus. So I have a bunch of assortments here to look at. All right, this first one. All right, so this first one is This first one is just a really clean menu. And it's taking all that same data that you saw in the default menu and parsing it just very differently. So this could fit anywhere, basically. Um, there's a few important things here. Few things are important for usability in a menu. So like up front, you can see I'm on keyboard and mouse, right? And I can hit the escape key to close it and back right out. So that's super important. Players expect that behavior when you're on mouse and keyboard to press the escape key and be able to close a menu when a menu is dismissible like that. And so that is available through the UI back action, and it needs to be implemented. And we've actually done previous, I think, live streams talking about this and various talks. And there's examples in their documentation as well for how to follow that, how to do that. So it is a super important thing to do. Similarly, we have tabs up here. So tabs, you can hover on them, and we have hover states for mouse, and you can click, and then they get selected. You see little subtle animations. Now, this is all just nice polish. As far as usability principles here, so first of all, the UI is really clean. Nothing is really distracting you or anything. It's really clear that you're looking at a category called weapons. Oh, look, there's 3 pages worth, right? So you can click on the next button and you can go on to the next page. And we're telling you you're on page 3 of 3, page 2 of 3. So this entire UI is built using UMG and verse fields and driven by verse data via the in-island transactions data, all your offers and entitlements. So there's actually not a whole lot of very meaningful verse UI code written for this, which is nice. It's much easier to build UI using a graphical editing tool like UMG than having to do it in verse code, of course. So the nice thing here, of course, is that we have the clear icons and the names bold and in capital, and you have a brief description shown beneath that tells the player what it is, and then the cost is very obvious and clear, right? So I think this is all like plus, doing a good job being clear. This is a menu where you have just a ton of options, right? And as a player, I'd probably be pretty overwhelmed. I would think, oh my gosh, this game's crazy. It has so much stuff. But games do have a lot of stuff sometimes, a lot of stuff for offer. And so when you do, a pattern like this is pretty good. So you can click on one of these guys, Plasma Rain, and it goes to this same screen. Now, I am running a UEFN session, so this is not a published island. So we're seeing this banner at the top that says you are in test mode, V-Bucks will not actually be spent. This is to allow you to test your purchases, of course. But so this again is that you always end up on this, players always end up on this final purchase screen, which is controlled by the system. This is so that we guarantee that players have all the critical information that they need to know in order to make a purchase. And of course, that depends on the developer providing good descriptions and meaningful icons and meaningful names. You'll notice that this is a durable item. A durable item is a type of entitlement which persists on the island that you're making as a developer. That's different from non-durable, which is basically something consumable. So once you use it, it goes away, basically. But durable, you would have forever. Okay, so we can go back and we go back to the menu, and we retained where we were, which is nice. And yeah, all this is pretty clear, I think, right? Good highlight states. All right, so here's something I think. Now, this design was not going edge to edge on the screen, so there's a lot of white space and so forth, right? As such, I set up these offers to have pretty long descriptions, and they're scrolling, and you're seeing 6 scrolling things on the screen here. I don't think this is a great pattern. It's good in that it gives you a chance to read the full description. So that's pretty good. But with all the space you have on the screen in this case, I would sooner make these tiles larger and let that text wrap. And we'll show examples of that later. So, and of course, when they're all scrolling at one time, it is a lot of movement at one time. And when you click on them, you can see the full description.
As a partial solution to that, if they wanted to keep this kind of layout, I just realized I'm like way out of the frame. Could you also just have it so where that it only scrolls when you highlight it, so that you're not getting a ton of motion all the time, as a way of solving that?
Um, uh, yes, you can do that. You definitely can do that. And I, I, that's something that is probably that could probably be made a little easier to do in UEFN's version of UMG than what you'll find in UE right now. But that certainly is, I think, a better practice, Dan. So good eye. That's probably what I would do is to configure it to start scrolling. So for example, you could have a verse field that's called is hovered, and I'll show this in a little bit. And then you could have two copies of the string of the text, one set to scroll, one set to not, and then you could show the one that scrolls when it's being hovered.
Again, these are just little things that you might not think about when you're initially building it, but they do help.
Absolutely, right. You do want to think about the data that you're showing to the player, because this is pretty overwhelming, I think, right? That's why I added it here.
We're also
Otherwise pretty good.
Yeah, we're also very attuned to movement. So if you want to get the attention of somebody, having movement there will draw their attention there. When you have that spread across so many different things, then their attention's being drawn to a bunch of different places, makes it a little bit clumsy.
Absolutely. Yep. Dan, you sound like all of us UX designers talking to other folks at a design review meeting. You do. You want to reserve movement for special. When everything's getting your attention, it is overwhelming. Okay, cool. So this is one menu. It's pretty good. Also, note, I'll grab my gamepad and I'll go to gamepad mode. And notice that the X in the top right corner went away. Which is a fine pattern if you're consistent with that throughout the game or experience you're making. Because in this case, we're saying, okay, when you're in gamepad, we're gonna give you a bottom bar. In this case, the only button on the bottom bar is close, right? But you have the API capability now. You have the capability to detect what the current input device is. Basically, it's called preferred input mode in the Verse API, and so you can use that to make your UI, adapt, to like optimize your UI experience for your input device type. So on mouse is pretty common pattern. So I'm back to mouse now, and this pops in again, right? And mouse is pretty common to have an X in the top right corner, so I went for that just for convenience. All right, cool. So you'll need to keep me honest on time, Dan. All right, so next one here. All right, this one's kind of over the top. And again, a lot of kit bashing. Just sort of grabbing art from different sources that we've had in different demos in the past to put this together. But this is similar, but really a wholly different menu experience, I think. The nice thing about this screen, I think, is it puts the menu really clear on the portion of the screen. It's not full screen, which I think makes sense because there's actually not a lot on this menu entirely to show. We're showing 3 items at once, and they all have equal visual weight. They're all pretty large in this case. You can clearly see there's 3 sections up here, and we have these pips showing what page you're on. So there actually is a lot of content. Now this is using the same content as that last menu. We're just only showing 3 instead of 2 sections. But so you'll notice that we have keyboard keybinds for the tabs at the top, right? So you can click on those. These icons you're seeing here actually line up with the visual design style of some of the rest of the elements on the screen. So I think this looks pretty nice. this screen. Anything kind of janky, that's totally me. This tab's pretty janky. It's okay. I went with a red theme. These are taking snippets of UI material that we've had in different projects. This is just like you can do on the forums and so forth. People publish their UI materials and so forth. You can start to piece together a little style guide of your own. So here we have three offers front and center. Again, pretty clear name, cool icons, clear price. Now you can hover on them for more information. And of course, the server's going to restart in 9 minutes. Yeah, of course it is. So that's it. 9 more minutes, then we're done. No, it's fine. I'll just restart it. Okay. So you hover on these guys, and you can see the full text. And there's some things going on here that I think help with usability. So number one, it's really clear what you're hovering on because it turns red. There's a smoky effect going on back there, and I can go into the details how this was made in a little bit. But the full descriptions pop up, right? And these have nice long descriptions, right? Heavy steel panels bolted to the chassis. Each hit causes less damage. There you go. You kind of know what you're getting here, right? Turbo engine, high output engine swap, massively increases top speed and raw power. Not bad descriptions, right? And really clear what's focused. And the pips tell you that, okay, there's more to look at, right? But it allows you to, really evaluate them one at a time if you want, right? You can push C to change tabs if you don't want to use your mouse because we have those hooked up, which is really a great practice to use. Again, this is the UI actions in verse. So we have, ram bumper, got missiles, fires 3 missiles, target tracking missiles, disables nearby rivals temporarily. So good descriptions, right? Really important to provide clear visual representation of what the thing is that's on offer, and the text explains what it is, because you can't always rely on the image for that. You can click these guys, and of course we go to the same menu. All purchases must go through this flow. And we go back to the screen here, which is a really important practice to retain where you were. It's really annoying. I'm sure you've seen in some games when your menu resets you to like slot 1, index 1 or something, right? And then you're like, oh, where was I? I was browsing through these. So that's really a really good design pattern. The pips down here, this is using the pip meter, which you can find in the UI folder. In UEFN, there is a bunch of materials, UI materials that are available, and this is using one of them. And yeah, that's basically this one.
Yeah, a couple things I just wanted to kind of touch on real quick with that is kind of similar to what we were talking about before with having all of that motion happening and kind of drawing all your attention. If this was like covered with a bunch of text, it would also do the same sort of thing where you're feeling like a little overwhelmed, like where do I start? What am I looking at? What am I reading? Just that simple thing where it's like it doesn't have that description until you highlight it. It lets you completely control how much text you're seeing and then makes the initial read very simple. But then you can get that information. I don't have to click on it to open it to find that information. I can, but simply highlighting it will provide information to me in a focused, my attention's already there because I moved my cursor there to see what it is.
Exactly. Yeah. I'll show how this was built. I think this does read pretty well. The text is, stands out with good contrast, I think. So I'd say this looks pretty simple. I actually did end up spending a surprisingly more time than I thought to get this quite right. In part because I didn't really start with a Figma, with a design on paper, a plan too much. I was kind of, winging it from some ideas, working in the editor. And I love just to work in the editor directly so you can, build something and see it and test it and iterate. But there is a lot actually happening to get the timing of these popping up, so it's really quick. Getting the font size right. You'll see actually there's a darkened gradient here happening from the top to the bottom. That's to increase the contrast. The text has an outline around it and a shadow slightly. I I couldn't, bear going in front of, the community here and, showing UI that was hard to read or the prices not easy to read and so forth, because this is so important. As a developer, you have to get this right. And okay,
100%.
so also, I think it's a really great practice when it makes sense for your game. Just be really clear about V-Bucks usage. So here, the call to action is very clear. Select an item to view its details, and then, I'm getting your attention by doing this crazy material that a super talented UI artist built, with the little article effect on the bottom here, at the end here. But
Mhm.
all purchases in this shop, 4 minutes left. I'll restart it. It's fine.
No
All
worries.
purchases in this shop use V-Bucks, right? I think that's just great to know, right? It's a good, clear reminder. You could combine purchases, that cost V-Bucks, or purchases, or items that you can acquire through other means. It's perfectly fine to combine that in your menus and so forth. But I suggest always erring on clarity. And if you can be really clear about this menu is all about spending V-Bucks, then I think the players will appreciate that. Because maybe they don't want to use maybe they don't want to spend V-Bucks on this experience, right? And so then they can just, know is really clear when they're in it.
Yeah. And even if you don't intend it, even that wasn't the intent, you don't want your player to feel like you've kind of pulled one over on them. Even if it was unintentional, even if it was an accident, you don't want them to feel that way.
Yep,
It'll sour the experience almost instantly. So
totally
clarity
agree.
is key always, but especially when there's a monetary result to it.
Absolutely. We got the escape key shown here, so you can escape and you can close it, which is just, super handy. On gamepad, I just opted for putting the gamepad close button. Now there's an input action, there's an action available in verse which maps to your default back button on your platform. If you're on PlayStation or if you're on Xbox or Nintendo, it'll show you the correct keybind in that little art there by the X. Um, so players will expect on Xbox right now, you'd push the face button on the right to close. All right. Before this thing says it's restarting, let me just end the game and restart it.
No worries. I also just want to just say real quick with that last one that we just did too, that I think is I personally like, especially if you're going to do an experience where you have multiple different shopkeepers, is having that shopkeep visible in the UI. Well, in this case specifically in the UI, but even just visible at all, because then it lets you kind of associate whatever this shopkeep sells with the shopkeep, which helps keep it in your mind. If you only have one person, this isn't always necessary, but if you're gonna have multiple different shopkeepers that all sell different things, that's just a little clever way to kind of associate it in your brain. So you go, oh yeah, what do I need the gear? Oh yeah, she's the gear shopkeep. I'll go over to her.
Yep, 100%. Totally agree. Yeah, and this screen, this menu, by the way, I think would work great also if we didn't have the tabs and we just showed like the vehicle gear, and you're just flipping through these 3 pages, right?
Mm.
Or however, few many more pages here. Nice, clear interface design. All right, moving on. I won't get kicked off the server now.
Yay.
The next one. Okay, so all right. This is similar to the first one, but this is just different. There's a few more principles going on here that I want to talk about. Okay, so number one here, we're pretty much full screen, right? We're going like almost edge to edge. And this is a big shop, and what we're seeing here is a little bit of visual hierarchy, right? What should get your attention is this big plasma ball in the middle of the screen called Plasma Rain. Um, and it's featured, right? So this is by far the largest thing on the screen, and it's the item that you want to feature. So if you have an item that you want to an offer that you want to feature in your game, a pattern like this makes sense. Especially if you have a hierarchy of offers. For example, your primary hero. Oh my gosh.
Oh
Okay.
no.
I need to actually, yeah, restart. I thought I wasn't gonna get away with it. I had this
Do you
running
want
too long. It's
do you want me
fine.
to
Oh,
hide
sure,
your
sure.
screen for a
Yeah.
second? Oh
You
yeah,
can
cool.
do that.
Great.
You don't have to watch loading screens. I have to refresh the session.
No worries. Do you mind if I throw a question at you while we refresh it?
Only if it is an easy one.
It shouldn't be too bad. Shouldn't be too
All
bad. I
right.
think we've actually largely covered it, but it might be worth kind of emphasizing. Is one of the questions we had is can you do, or sorry, can you add animation slash zoom effects to the buttons on hover?
Oh yeah. That is a that's a good question. We totally can. Um, I'm struggling to restart this. And I can show that, I think. I'm happy to show that. When I open up, I'll open up uh the UMG files, the UI widgets, and we'll go through them after I do a run through on the different menus. Sorry, talking while making sure I'm clicking on the right things. I think we're getting back in action here. Yeah, you can I think so like I think zooming in on, you know, like making the icon get bigger, the offer item get bigger is a good idea, you know. I don't think I have examples of that too much here. But we can maybe do one in real time.
Ooh,
That's a very simple animation generally. Okay, I think we're back in action. It's not threatening to throw me off the server anymore. Oh, yeah.
there you go.
I mean, there we go. Yeah, so
Beautiful.
embiggened. Okay. So we were looking at this one. Okay, yeah. So visual hierarchy. You know, super important if you have multiple types of offers and you want players to understand, you know, that one offer is particularly a good deal. It's discounted. Now, I'm not showing discounted prices here, but nothing's stopping you from doing that. You could cross out the price and put a different price next to it, and that will be something for you to manage in verse code. We can look through we'll go through the verse code where I have all these offers configured. Um, but so so the second thing on the visual hierarchy here is are these, right? These special offers. Now, I'm also using a lot of white space, right? You know, the art is pretty high contrast, vibrant, kind of striking. And they're centered in these tiles, mostly a lot of white space, right? So it feels pretty clean. And you know, I think showing four things at a time, if they're special featured things, is a good philosophy, right? Um, Now this page is special, is the idea here, right? We have a timer happening here. Special offers, new deals in 23 hours, 58 minutes, 11 seconds. So this is data that is coming into this widget from Verse. So in Verse, there's an async timer that's running and passing this text to the UI. And the idea is that in your verse code, you're going to generate or you're going to create new offers once this timer runs out, and we'll update these. So this is telling the player, I think, in a really clear way, hey, if you don't like these offers right now, come back in 24 hours almost, come back tomorrow and you'll see three new ones. The idea is that we're co-locating this little clock icon with the special offers and the word special offers over here. So it's tied together, I'd say, pretty strongly. You could put the timer countdown on these as well if you wanted to, but I think this is you know, probably sufficient.
Another thought
Yeah.
is could you also make the kind of frame that it's sitting in that kind of same dark goldish color on those special offer icons as well to kind of
Yeah.
associate the two together?
Yeah, and that'd be probably a really good idea. I think that would further associate it. Totally agree. So clicking on these, exact same flow, takes you to the purchase screen and keeps you on the page you were on. So a lot of these offers are just using the standard icons that you can find in the UEFN UI icon library. So these are just, you know, placeholders for purposes of the demo today. Okay, so on the left, really nice menu, just big text, clear. Hey, there's like five sections. This is featured. This page is, probably going to be special, and it is. The next 2 pages, right? Less special. Here's some more stuff, right? Consumable items. Okay, we've all seen these before, but we're just occupying the space here, showing you 6 at a time. 6 is a lot already, right? Giving the player a chance to read each one if they want. They're going to glance at it. They're going to see the icons first, and see if it is anything that gets their attention because it meets their needs. And then they're going to read it. In this case, we have really brief descriptions. I would say these are not very good descriptions, right? I mean, they're okay. Depends on how they're using gameplay. Slow, large heal. That's fine, right? And then so you can choose to do this because when you go to click on an offer for purchase, we always show you the long description on this screen. So this is a consumable item versus durable, right? So when you use this, it's gone as a player. So here we show the small description, and then when you click on it, you see the large description. Vehicle gear is the same thing. Here's how it might look with, more colorful icons. This, looks nice and clean still. You have 2 pages. I love the paging system that we did on this. It just, is a lot cleaner. Paging works better on console very often than scrolling. Scrolling with a mouse is, the mouse wheel and going through the list is fine. But generally, paging is a really nice, clean, stable way to present the player with options that span more than would fit in the content area. We have a section called food. So here we go. Some food items. Again, kit bashing from other projects. And all right, so visual hierarchy. We have, number 1, big, special offers. This is like second in the list, arguably. These are kind of the same size as these, but they're actually meant to be a little bit smaller, honestly. But these are sort of like more numerous, right? So these are sort of a third tier, right? Now bundles. This is a really cool UI that a really talented UI developer put together really not too long earlier for this meeting. I'm really glad it got in. This is again purely built in UEFN using UMG and the Verse UI API. So these are expanders, right? So the nice thing so these are all bundles. What are bundles? I haven't discussed bundles yet. Bundles are when you have multiple offers that you would all receive. So bundles include multiple entitlements. I mean, they don't have to, but that's the purpose of them. So if I go to vehicle bundle, so let me show you how it works. So on mouse here, you click on this, right? And it expands. Now, when it expands, we're actually hiding the VBuck cost here because we're putting it right on the button. And that's just a really good idea, right? Again, going back to what we were talking about before, Dan, like erring on clarity here is always the best idea. Give the player a nice big old button. Can't argue that's not a big enough button. But it's all like, very flat UI contained and within the blue space, and then it just has a VBuck icon and the cost, and it's very obvious, and it says buy. You got a little shopping cart icon there, right? You know what you're doing.
And it's really consistent with what we were talking about with motion too, right? Because you not only have the bottom of the button go down, the arrow aims down, everything moves in that motion, and it draws all your attention back down there so that you're again looking at where the cost is. Whereas if you had done all that animation to look down, you might not be then seeing where that cost is because it's back up in that top spot where it wasn't moving.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love the way you described that. Thanks, Dan. Yeah. So, all right, so when you click on this, we're doing the same thing. We're going to the purchase screen. So this is a bundle now, right? It says bundle in the top left. And you can buy it outright, of course, but you can also inspect it, right? You should always inspect your bundle to make sure you know what's in it. So you click it, and then the screen expands, and here we have 3 things that are in this bundle. We're getting the aero kit, the armor plating, and the turbo engine. Right? So these are all 3 durable items. Each of these items shown on the left are fully explained on the right. Again, this is a UEFN, a system created screen. Developers are unable to manipulate the screen besides passing it contents. And again, that's by design. We want players to have 100% clear understanding of what the user interface, like how it works. We want players to have some amount of trust that, okay, this is a menu which is going to act as I expect it to.
Yeah.
All right, so we can go back, and then you can just back out of this. Let me go back to this screen. So this is a pretty cool menu. It even this one is scrolling and paging. Well, this one has to scroll because they expand, right? So and then you can go to next page, and there we go. Complete bundle. What does that one look like? These are all just the placeholder icons. Oh, there we go. Here, you got a hammer, some missiles, and a banana. Why not?
That was last week's grocery list.
Yeah, might get some weird looks. All right. Okay, so this is a pretty cool menu. Yeah, nice and clean. I love this one, honestly. All right, next one. Oh, actually, something I meant to mention on this first one. I can go ahead and buy something. So let me go ahead and buy like this gravity sling, right? So it says 150. I believe this is a durable item, so durable. Now, I would actually argue that it'd be great if this page says all of these are durable items. You know, consumables. I would assume they're all consumable here, right? But I think we could actually add the label durable to this, for example, right? As a developer, you have that data available to you in verse, so you can do that. And I think it's a good idea. So the player, you know, that might be a factor that makes a player, you know, want to decide to purchase something. Is it durable or is it consumable? But I'm gonna go ahead and buy this one. All right, and then, all right, so there's feedback that's built in the system down here. And then now in this menu, we are able to look at the API for this offer, and we can tell that for this entitlement, and we can tell that the player owns it now. And so we're using that to drive the UI to change that to show the word owned. I need to. Part 2 of this presentation is going to be of this live stream is going to be going through the UMG files here and there to show some of these things. But now you know that it's owned, right? And that data, and that's just data driving the UI, like all the rest of it, right? So now that's just going to say owned forever here, right? For testing purposes, really handy. We can go back to our debug menus button, and there's a handy button here called I can go to recently used called print owned entitlements. So you can see the details on the right. It prints all owned entitlements to the output log. So when you click that, it gives you feedback, print owned entitlements, command executed. And then you can go to your log tab in your session. And then you'll see here, okay, look, I just bought Gravity Sling, owned yes. So this is to help you as a developer debug your menus. So you know that it's working as it should. So in this case, right, I spent the time to build this menu to show the word owned when you owned it. The log confirms that the data is saying, yeah, it's owned. And so if this did not say owned, you have a bug in your code. Right. All right, cool. That was a little bit tangent here.
Something
where
else.
was I? Yeah,
No, real
go.
quick that I just wanted to say with that I love and guarantee you is intentional, but I just wanted to emphasize it is that previous menu that you just showed, mostly monochromatic. Like we had that one icon that had some red into it, but for the most of the part, it was a fairly monochromatic kind of UI element.
Yeah.
And then when you go to that one you purchased, it has that very contrasty bright green that really draws your attention to it so that it like stands out. It doesn't get lost in the UI, makes it very clear that you own this thing, and it just looks satisfying. As again,
Yeah.
a lot of the things you'll hear with UI stuff is just like that feeling of satisfaction. This is that feels very satisfying to have that like kind of, you know, like I said, kind of a monochromatic thing, and then it very clearly bright, happy. Look, you have this thing. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, exactly. The cool thing about this entire UI here is it's actually made mostly without UI materials, which can be complicated. So these are actually just images that are set to be rounded boxes, right? And so that's why it's nice and clean and flat. You could do a big old fancy like a glint wipe across this when you purchase it, right? And it could, then say owned in a really cool way or show a green light. But really, yeah, totally agree with you, Dan. Putting the word owned there, in high contrast text, great idea. Keep it simple, keep it clean.
Even just as simple
You
as
know,
that green, right? Because if you
yeah,
change that own to white, it could very easily be, I don't want to say lost, but it starts to sit with everything else and might
absolutely.
not be as noticeable to the.
Yeah. Yeah, good call out. Okay, I think I already did this one. Whoops, just moving on. Yeah. All right. Okay, that's right, this one. So yeah, so kit bashing. I had some we had some parchment paper type art assets. I think I must have done something by accident and I messed up the layout a little bit because this was supposed to be fitting it. But it's okay. It still kind of works. This is cutting off a little bit, but so okay, what's going on here? So this is on the side of the screen, which is pretty handy, right? So imagine I don't know, you're in a big Western town or something, right? And in this case, you don't want to take away you don't want to occupy the entire screen's player's viewport. You want to let them see this area still. Maybe they're interacting with an NPC or something. And so this is a great way to present a super clean list on the side of the screen without occupying like taking the player completely out of the gameplay experience of the world, right? Okay, so here we are just piling all those offers into a vertical list, which is totally fine. So we have that same pit bar just styled differently. Now you'll notice that we have Q and E again on the bottom, right? And if I'm on gamepad, I can just use the bumpers to go through those. Super nice. Um, Really nice effect is that when I go to the right, all the items animate in to the left, right? And vice versa, which is just really nice. Adding a little bit of sort of real world movement and, this is not really physics, but it's along those lines. Just feels really good and natural.
Yeah,
Um,
even though this is just a sheet of paper, it's not necessarily a book. There's just a part of your brain that will associate the two, so making it almost feel like you're turning a page is
yeah.
is really satisfying.
Yeah, it'd be really cool to add a page effect. Someone out there make this menu and make it do
There
a
you
cool
go.
page effect. Um, yeah, purchase these things. You click on them, it's the same menu flow. We've seen many times now. But there's a lot here, right? But I think that's okay. This doesn't try to showcase one item over another. Like what you'll notice here is that the bundles they just start right after the coconut, right? And so these are kind of special because bundles generally could tend to cost more because they usually would, the goal is their intent is to let the developer offer players multiple entitlements. Like I think these bundles should look different, right? They don't have to be on their own page, but that would probably be a good idea. But I would, put a little stripe across here or something. I would say, like the word bundle or something to call it out, or a little tag over here. That would be a good idea.
Yeah, you took the
If I
words
were
right out of my
to,
mouth. I
yeah,
was gonna suggest something very similar to that.
yeah. So these are, the bundles again. So mainly I wanted to show this vertical format, right?
Mhm.
Which works pretty well, right? Nice clean exit button on the bottom. Okay. So the last one we got to go into this haunted house thing. It's gonna be a riff on that vertical one. All right. Let's go. All right, so just grabbing assets from the prefab list. Like, oh, look, I'm in a haunted house, scary. We got some a
Spook,
shop here, right?
spooky shopkeeper.
Little spooky maybe, right? Okay, so you walk up to this shop. All right, so what's going on here? So it's really that same menu. I literally just, copied and pasted it from before. Whoops. Same menu, and now I wanted to showcase how it's cool to use a 2D menu to also interact with the 3D environment, to keep the player in, to not take them out of the experience completely. This feels a lot more immersive. What's happening here? This is the yummy not cursed foods shop, right? Call to action. Select a not cursed item below to view its details. And so we have just a small list of items here. These are foods, and you can hover on them. And what we're doing is that one's really in your face, but we're doing is a camera transition to look at these items. So this is a verse event that's being triggered from these widgets to some cameras in space. Oh, and that's my head. So I didn't tune this thing perfectly. So yeah, you need to be, when you're doing this, you need to, spend time to make sure you get your cameras right. I did not do that for these demos. My guy was blocking me when looking at the corn. There you go. It's a giant corn. It's also embedded in that table counter. And here's a coconut that's really an apple. That one actually might be cursed, I guess. All right. What's this curse thing? Not just me trying to be funny. Actually, I thought this is a good principle. That banana looks kind of cursed, actually. I think this is a bad practice, right? So these items cost V-Bucks, right? This is actual, the player could have spent actual money to earn these V-Bucks. We're being kind of funny, maybe. Up for debate, I guess. But notice that when you move the mouse off the menu item, the camera zooms back to the whole store, which is a really nice touch. I think it's kind of funny, but it's also, I think, chipping away at trust and clarity, right? Okay, maybe I really need this banana because click on it. It peels away in a second and heals a little. It's a quick snack on the island. Fine. So it's a quick heal, right? But is it cursed? I don't know actually, right? Is this being funny or not? And then there's a message here, right? These items really are not cursed, despite how they may appear. Okay, I'll probably believe it that it's not cursed, but this was, I think, a little exercise in, I think, what not to do, right? I don't think it's really, usually beneficial. It's really hard to be in that little gray area when you're mixing in gameplay lore with the actual side effects, and behavior of these entitlements that, as a developer, you're selling to players. I think, again, err on clarity, and I think making a little joke like this about, yummy, not cursed foods, it kind of goes against that principle a little bit.
Especially when it's something that, again, it's costs real currency, right? If this is just an in-game thing and it was just kind of like a cheeky little inconsequential thing, you could probably be a little bit more fun with it. But stuff like this, you want to be very clear with.
Absolutely. Yep. Now, one thing that I added on this screen, which is, I think, a good practice, got good and bad going on here, is a message. Purchase items are gained immediately, right? Explaining that behavior is, I think, really useful to players, right? Because that further explains how, what their purpose is and how they are used, and what happens after you complete the purchase. Okay, so going back to the menu, yeah, this is a great way to let the players browse a menu, and you can show what that object looks like in 3D. You can showcase your world, and it's actually not that hard to set up, right? We're really just activating. In this case, we're moving a camera around, actually, but you could just activate different cameras. We have a details panel in the top right. You'll see the big old banana fast light heal. And a corn. You could put more information there, but this is a fun one, I think. Right,
and it does a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and it accomplishes kind of something I was talking about a little bit earlier too, where it's it integrates the shop with the keep, right? So if there is multiple shop keeps, you see exactly who you're dealing with. It just builds that association.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good call. So we got a radiant mushroom. All All right. So, all right. That's actually, it. So like, so this is something that you can build. Let me spend a minute showing you how to build this. It's kind of a far cry from the default shop that you can, that you get out of the box, right? So this is like, absolute clarity, built-in menu. But I would love to see folks uh, taking a swag at building a custom menu, which provides more maybe information and better usability for players when it meets the needs of your game. Okay, so let me get out of this building here and.
Yeah, we actually got a question that I think we're going to segue directly into, which is, will we be able to see how you built this to get an idea for how we make it ourselves? And I think the answer is about to be yes.
Well, yes, we can, Dan. Let me show that now.
Let's
Okay,
do it.
so all right, so we have you see these are just a series of these are five. I showed five menus, so these are five verse devices associated with each of those menus. And these triggers just trigger the menu, and that the one with the 3D in the haunted house that was triggered when you walk up to the counter. So that's a structure here, and let me go here. So all right. Maximize. I made my editor larger, my UEFN larger, so all the fonts larger, so it's harder for me to navigate everything. But like, so this is the world. It's very straightforward, right? It's pretty simple, world outline view. It's not a whole lot. This is just that building really. But this is it, right? So okay, so I want to start by saying one thing though. A great way to start to make a custom shop is to use the verse template for the marketplace. So what you do is you go to your verse explorer. If it's not turned on, you can go to verse and choose verse explorer here. And you just right click and you'll say um, create verse file, right? And then what you'll do is you'll get this pop-up, and this has a variety of templates, right? These are great. So we made a really handy one called in-island transactions device. And so what this will do is this will add this to your project, and it gives a variety of sample entitlements and offers. All you need to do is assign an icon, because an icon actually is required, because all offers must have an icon. So all you have to do is supply an icon, and then you can use this verse template to you can use it to first create a default menu, and then you can use it to create a custom menu. That is how we started making these menus. It's a really handy template. So you see, we have this potion of Thanksgiving, right? You can preview it here in the window. I won't add it right now, but and it goes through. It has comments. I actually suspect this was talked about in some of the recent in-island transactions live streams that we've done recently, right? So, but here is making, so this is data for offers, and here is making the entitlements. Now, an entitlement is what a player actually receives when they purchase an offer. Entitlement is what you use as a developer to change your gameplay, because the player has made a purchase. So this is a basic sword, and you see it has a name, description, short description. Here's the icon. Here's a comment saying this must have an icon from your project defined here. Um, so you need to fill in that icon, and then it should compile just fine. And yeah, so this is a great way to start, right? It goes through making offers and even has a few bundle examples. It's a potion pack bundle, right, with good comments. So I definitely recommend following the online tutorials from the documentation site and using this when you're getting started. Okay, let's get started here. So let me go to some content browser. So like I said, this was a big old kit bashing experience. So I actually imported various little projects from mostly from the UI feature example. Here, now that I said it, I have to plug it. So be sure to check out the UI feature example where you'll find a lot of samples. Also, you'll find other in-island transactions menu samples. You just go to Open Project and go to feature examples, and then click on user interfaces. And you give it a name and you make this project and it'll create this project for you. And what it is a collection of hallways that show you how to create UI, and it shows you feature examples. And one of those features examples is how to make menus like I've been showing today. So there's just a quick call out for that. All right, back to these samples now. All right, let me go to this first shop. So we have a shared folder and example one, right? Widgets, textures, materials. So this is pretty well organized, right? And so here's the shop. All right. So this is the UMG file for this shop. As you see, the entire shop is built in UMG with the back plate for darkening the background. Let me hide some of those lines right now. Our close button, and it's really all just contained right here. Okay, so this, as you remember, was probably our highest density shop. We had the most number of tabs, the most number of items shown on the screen, multiple pages, right? So all of this is driven by verse data, and that verse data is added as variables to this widget. So when I click on the variables tab here, you can see a lot of data, right? So there's a lot of variables that we've added. So this is about what it looks like to create a menu like this in terms of adding verse variables. Um, a lot of this stuff is repeating, and so I'm sure you're probably getting maybe peppered, Dan, if I might say peppered with questions about can you add arrays of verse variables and so forth. And so that is not something that's available still. Sorry to report, but I wanted to just be clear and honest on that right now. There is some foundational work that has to happen before that's something that can be added to UMG and UEFN at this moment. So what we're doing instead is working with adding data, passing data to instances of these sub widgets, right? So you have your title of item 1, title of item 2, title of item 3, and so forth, right? We're reusing those and passing data from verse. Okay, so I want to jump to the verse side a little bit here, and I want to start with the data, if that's okay. Um, I won't spend too much time. How are we on time, Dan?
We're good.
Okay.
It's 3:08 local. So
Okay. So there's a lot here. I made my font bigger because Dan told me to. Also because I actually really like it bigger, probably. Um, so we have a verse file called UI shop data. This data is shared by all of these menus. And it's also this file defines all those offers and entitlements and bundles. Um, so one thing I want to also do a quick view of is this other verse file called modules that we've added. So this is a simple file, and what this is defining the modules that we're using throughout this project. So with this, we can reference assets in these modules, and these basically map to the folder structure of your in this case of the UI. So we have a folder called shared, and then within that we have these folders: shared content, example 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 isn't really an example. Then a folder called shared art, basically. So just as a heads up, like this is important. You need to set it up front, and putting it in its own mod, in its own verse file like this is a good idea. Um, Another one called helpers that we'll get into in a little bit. But let me go back to the data one now. Okay, so data. All right, so this will help explain the structure of offers. Um, we have these tabs, right, throughout most of those examples. And so we are defining those up here just as a message, right? Category weapons name is a message called weapons, and that's the text that appears on the weapons that gets passed to the menus. So weapons, consumables, vehicle gear, food, and bundles. Why not? For the demo today. Okay, so there's a few sections here, and so I won't go through all this because that's not the point. But the point I do want to make is I want to share what are the parts needed to build these offers. So, and I think this was covered in other sessions before, so I won't go as deep as hopefully others have. But so we have here are a bunch of modules to describe the entitlements. So this is basically the text for each of the offers that that the player sees. So we give it the module gets a name, and then within that we have a name description and short description, right? So here's our plasma rain, and we have a long description. It's called description here. Summon chunks of plasma to rain down from the sky, area of effect attack. And then the short description, area of effect attack. That's not that great of a short description, but short description is really handy. You saw some cases before where, you want to put a bunch of things on the screen at one time, but you don't want to give the player just a wall of text because, it may not literally fit on the screen. And even if it does, it would be probably just too much to parse at one time. So we have short descriptions as an option. All right, so we make a bunch of these, right? Each offer you saw has one of these. This is where you find the description text. We try to just use little labels, comments to break them up. Right, here's a vehicle gear. All right, so sorry for scrolling so much, but that's what it's going to be like as I go through the verse code. Got our food section, and then the bundles are all the same, right? Name description, short description. Okay, the next section we're going to do are entitlements. All right, so now we're going to create entitlements, right? So here, let me click on entitlements. So in Visual Studio Code, hit F12, and you can jump to the class definition. So an entitlement is in the Fortnite digest, and it has this information in it. And another really great thing to do is you can find all this on the online documentation, where here we have max count, consumable, paid area, paid randomization, consequential to gameplay. So you can find all the details about this API in the online documentations. This was the first hit that I got when I searched for it. But this is just on the UEFN docs page. It goes through quite good detail explaining the meaning and purpose of these properties. Going back to where I was. Too many tabs. Where is the data? Here we go. Okay. So here we are setting up data for the entitlements. We give it a name and description and short description. So we're just going back to our those modules we made up top. So plasma rain info, right? This was this, right? So name description, short description. we're just setting the values on these entitlements to the text that we set up there. And now we're also giving it an icon. So here we're assigning an icon to all the entitlements. And again, entitlement, this is what the player actually has on their account when they make a purchase. So this is what you need to check for to see if a player has purchased something that you've put in an offer so you can implement it in your gameplay to provide what you promised as a developer. So there's a bunch of these here. I find it handy to name them. Actually, this may not be the best convention. But in this case, I was doing add an underscore ent as an entitlement. The other ones I just did underscore I just did info. So in this case, we're using the info to help configure the entitlement. And this goes on for all of them. Now consumables, right? These are not durable. These are used, and they have max counts. So here we're saying, okay, this medkit entitlement, it has a max count of 5, and they are consumable, right? These values have defaults, and in this case, we're setting it to true. We want to make sure that this is marked as a consumable to the player, and that's where you define it as an entitlement, or as a way to define it in an entitlement. Okay, go through some more of these. The next packaging of this is called offers. So an offer are like one thing we say is like the things on the shelf, right? So this is what the player sees. So when you're going through the UI menu samples that I was showing, each of those little buttons that showed the icon and name description, that was the offer, right? The offer is what the player is effectively purchasing. So it is here where you define a price. For a price, you use the make price V-Bucks, and these need to be in increments of 50. And here we're setting up all the same data from before. Okay, and the last level is, so these are consumable offers. The last thing I want to show here is are the bundle offers. Bundles, here we go. So starter bundle, here I did that vehicle bundle with the vehicle icons. So bundles are bundles take an array. So they take an array of offers. So here we have here we're passing the aero kit offer, the armor plating offer, and the turbo engine offer, right? I can F12 over to that turbo engine offer to see how it was defined. Go back to where I was. Whoops. Yeah, so vehicle bundle offer. And here you can give it a price. In this case, the prices in this demo were really just at effectively random. But these were made to be a little bit more just because. But that would normally take into account if these offers are available individually, you might want to take those into account when you're configuring your when you're deciding on your price. Okay, and then the last bit here is data that's specific to the demos I'm showing today, right? What I showed above here is that's a generic approach you use for creating any offers. Now here we have a system that we built to create these menu screens in a modular way, just so it's more convenient. You don't have to. You can take a very manual approach to all the menus I showed today, and keep the verse code, far simpler than what I'll show a bit. But in this case, we have a system of defining what's on each page, right? So here we have the weapon category, and we define it as having these offers. We have this ID here. This is completely specific to this example project today. That's actually only used in the 3D UI case as a means to track what you're looking at. It's not really necessary. It could be done in a simpler way, I think, too. We're also defining an icon. So the categories appear as tabs, right? So here we're defining an icon. for each tab. That's just how this was implemented. So we have the consumables, the vehicle gear, and the food. The coconut, that's an apple. Like here, I'll call this an apple, right? Because it's an apple. Oh wait, that's actually not where that is. Here, coconut offer. I'll fix this. Coconut offer. We gotta back our way through this. F12 is your friend in Visual Studio Code. So I'm gonna change the name coconut to apple. Um, cracked open for the water inside. No, not really. We're gonna say an apple a day and all that. um, you know, and this like makes you less hungry. You know what? I'm gonna say it's a fruit. Eat it. Yum. Here we go. Okay. So there. Fixing bugs. So all right, yeah. So this is just again how we organize all those offers into those sections. So we have some sanity there. All right, let me take a moment, I think, to kind of jump back to what I was talking about. Oh, here, actually. Also, the nice thing about UEFN is that making verse code changes generally can be done pretty quick without having to do a full content push. Let's restart the session here. All right. I'm big in the screen. Okay. So now what we're looking for, I guess, is the coconut should be an apple. Apple. I didn't change the
Hey.
art. Yeah, so but so now when we go to the haunted shop, it should show a picture of a coconut picture, but at least it should say apple. There we go,
It does
coconut
say
and
apple.
apple. That apple does look cursed also though. It's the lighting. Okay. So, all right. Verse code. So there we go. All right. So the shops. We have a base shop. And we basically subclass this shop for all of these shops. So here's like shop one. This is a subclass of UI shop base, right? F12, you can jump to it here. So let me go through this base class real quick. So this is custom, a custom class, put together. And there's a lot here. This was because this was honestly in part because we're kit bashing from various other examples that we've done over time.
Mm.
And then we had to also account for the different variety of menus a little bit. So I'm scrolling through a lot here. I'm not going to walk through all this code, but I'll just try to hit the high points here. But basically what we're doing is we're subclassing these and then overriding it with like as needed for each shop. So here we're saying, okay, on items a page holds and tiles the design owns. So this is basically we're saying 6 items per page, right? And here we're saying we have 5 categories. So when we're going to the sorry, I'm still in the haunted house. The day-night cycle is kind of cool actually. Nicer to see the dark menu in the day. You definitely want to be aware of. This is kind of dark, I would say actually too. But
Mm.
we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 5 tabs here, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items here. So that's what's happening over here. We're setting up the specific layouts. So and then these can be overridden by the subclass. Um, so again, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on all of these, but all of these are being set up to hide the menu when you purchase. You could choose to keep it on screen at the same time, in which case that final purchase screen would appear on top, whatever you have of that previous menu. And that I think that would just be more confusing for the player. So in this case, we configured it to give you an option to hide the entire custom-built developer-made menu so that the default purchase screen, the built-in one, has the full clean screen to draw on. Okay, so we're tracking how many entitlements the player owns. We're tracking is mobile layout, which is handy. This is basically we're looking at what's the preferred input device at the moment. Same thing with gamepad. That's how we're hiding that X in the top right corner when you're not in mouse mode, basically, on the first shop example. And say like so each design is let's override these functions. Right, max pages for category, the category text, setting the slot number and the name. So as you see, this was a custom class built for the purposes of making a bunch of different menus. Your own menu could be far simpler in terms of the verse code. But making it modular like this is a handy way if you need to have different types of menus. What's other interesting things here? So we have an event on highlighted item changed for the menu is shown and menu is removed. These are for triggering like, in an intro animation. This is also useful for bringing the menu back after you purchase, right? We have our we have bools, some logic variables to trigger animations for starting up or changing pages, right? Because those things animate sideways when you change pages. Same thing with tabs. One thing I didn't show, which would be a good practice too, just really kind of ran out of time for this content demo, but is a custom screen for post-purchase. The system always shows the default message in the bottom corner of the bottom center of the screen to give the player a minimum amount of feedback that a purchase succeeded. But it's also a good idea to just like showcase that item. What I'd love to have done is like say, okay, you bought an apple, like, here's the apple, and put it center screen and remind the player what it's good for, that they've acquired it now, and that sort of thing. Okay. So yeah, this class certainly is pretty in depth. So these are functions we call for granting the entitlement, or consuming an entitlement for consumables. Okay, so let me jump to one of the subclasses of these, because it should be a little bit it should be a lot smaller actually. Yeah, it is. Okay, so this is that first shop. This is the most complicated one, right? So so one thing I want to share here briefly, and you can find these in the UI feature example that I showed earlier. Some convenience or some helper functions. So for example, we have a function for a cancelable event. This basically lets you this helps you subscribe to a listenable event and cancel it. So we have a few pieces that help make it easier to create and react to events. Subscribe to events. And here it's a wait for event. We're spawning like a race condition, basically either the event completes or it's canceled. And the first one that happens is what ends the loop. Getting username. This is a really handy function called get preferred input method, right? So here we're using the API to get the preferred input method. Let me hit F12 there. Where is ended up in the wrong place. There it is. So this will return, is it keyboard and mouse? Is a player on keyboard and mouse? Are they on gamepad or are they on touch? Whoops. So this is what we use to hide the red X when the player's on gamepad in that first shop. And these are functions that return a true false if the player is on touch, if the player is on gamepad, if the player is on keyboard and mouse. So, just convenience functions. Okay, so these are used throughout these subclasses of the shop. So let's see here. We're setting up our page state, and we are setting the category of text across those 5 categories, right? So, here we're setting the category 1 text 2, 3, 4, and 5 on shop 1. Here it is. So let me search for the word category here. So here's category 1 text 2. So you'll see category 1 text, it's a message type, that's a verse type, that's localizable text. And then that is being hooked up to this. So let me show that binding. Let me jump to UMG a little bit. Now, there's a lot of verse data here. This first example is probably the most complicated one of them. There's a lot of bindings. So actually I can probably search for this. Oh, actually there it is. I see it at the very top. So category 1. So category 1 is a widget. See category 1, it's this tab. And we're setting its title and its icon, and we are setting up a click event on it. And so we're passing it the category 1 text over here. And that's just a direct binding from the message to the text. So it's to the text on it. Where'd it go? I clicked in the wrong place. So in this way, we're setting up category 1 title and icon and the click event, and same thing for category 2 and 3 and so forth. And as you see, that's all coming in from the first code here. Here, setting up the icon, and this is picking the slot. Okay, so we have some animation triggers that are coming in. So startup animation, next page, previous page, right? So we're setting the variable. It's an int to a value that's being configured to animate. And what's happening here is we have, let's look at the next page animation. Wait, actually, let's look at the startup animation. Here we go. So all these, it kind of has a, like, animates up a little bit. So this animation is being triggered by a binding. Here we go. So here we're taking the entire widget, so UW shop01 modal, and we are saying when this first variable we added to this widget called anim trigger startup, we're saying when that is equal to 1, cue play animation forward. So cue the animation to play forward, and let me expand this. Here we go. So what we're queuing up is an animation called anim startup, and we're just playing back at normal speed, right? And this is the anim startup, right? And so that's how we're triggering the animations. Okay, and so really each of these widgets are really kind of all variations of each other. So I can open up the button tab. So this is all very straightforward. So this tab, it needs to have a few states, right? It needs to detect when the player is using a mouse to hover over it, or when the player has a gamepad and it takes focus, because it can take focus. Or on touch, you could hold on it to highlight it, to focus it. So that's called the highlight event. It combines it works across all input devices supported, so mouse, keyboard, gamepad, and touch. So we're tracking, we're using a logic to track is it highlighted or not. And then it just has a title, it has an icon, and it has another logic to detect is it currently selected or not, right? So with those, we can configure all the states that it needs. So this is the state that we play. Whoa, sorry about that. This is the state that we play when it's being hovered on or when it's being focused with the gamepad. And this is a state that, this is the animation, I should say, sorry, the animation that we play when it's been focused. And here we're just increasing it. I think someone asked earlier, can you, can you zoom in? Can you change it to zoom in on focus? So like, yeah, I think we can do that. Maybe actually we can do that on one of these. Let's see if I can uh, do it in real time here a little bit. Okay, so here we're just doing like a border animation for when you highlight it. So nothing wrong with adding it to zoom, like making it zoom as well. So we're going to click on this image. So this is the image. It's the icon placeholder. We just called it icon image. It's always great to name your widgets properly. I'm glad I did here. No one likes to see a bunch of default names there. So we're going to go here and we're going to go to, we'll do a render transform. So we're going to click on scale here. That adds a keyframe. So here now have a keyframe. And this is just going to be open up scale, and the scale is 1.0, right? And then this is a pretty quick animation, 0.15 seconds. Generally good to make UI animations really snappy so it feels responsive. There were definitely some sluggish ones, I think, in some of the menus here, but it's okay for a demo maybe. So now we have an animation. This is going from 1.0 to 1.0. Not very good. So let's go 1. I don't know, 4. How much is that too big? Why not? Oops. Here we go. So now this should be scaling, right? And you know what? We can go bigger. It's gonna like happen really fast and snap. So let me check this out because this is on a shared project on a team. And so now you can preview it right here, and it's gonna do that. So let's go see if that worked. Now it'll take a second to push these changes because this content changes. So while that starts going, I'll continue. All right. All right, so we just made these zoom in when you hover on them. Why not? Um, let's see here. We can move on to the next shop. Let's see here. What's an interesting one here? I have a typo with 2 examples, 2 by accidents. Okay, yeah, there's a lot going on in this one. This one was really kind of a kit bash, uh, over the top. Really, just kind of grabbing way too many layers here to achieve what's achieved visually. Generally you want to try to achieve it with fewer things. This was totally on me for just trying to put this together to make it look a little different from the others. But these are just layers of visuals that are happening here. That's all, right? To darken the screen, and give it some character. Also, give it literally a character, just because. Let's see here. Okay. Oh, here we go. Starting up. We can take a quick look at that zoom in effect. See if that worked. So there you go. Zoom.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Dan? Better?
Yeah.
Worse?
No, good. I mean, maybe I would zoom it slightly less, but I think that
More.
movement, more, all of it.
Zoom and rotate.
Exactly. Just spin. Every icon should spin until you remove the cursor
Always
from it.
spinning and spinning.
Yeah.
These felt small. honestly. Actually, so I actually think the zoom feels pretty good on these,
Yeah,
especially for how these were set up.
I
Uh,
agree.
so yeah, yeah. So that was a good suggestion, somebody. So now we have icon zooming, text scrolling.
Yeah, these things are really great, and like I think that top bar, actually, if you go back to it real quick,
Yeah.
um, very briefly, like when you click on that like food and little icon and stuff like that, very subtle. Does It's not over the top. You can definitely get a little overkill with these. You don't want to go too crazy, but those
Yeah.
small little additions go a long way to make it feel like you're actually imparting something to this UI. It's like your interaction with it is actually going through. You're getting that kind of feedback.
Right on. Yeah. Here's your coconut apple. It's a fruit. Eat it. Yum. All right. So yeah. Uh, there's a lot of layers in this one. I suspect this hierarchy, widget hierarchy, could be cleaned up by about half, probably. I bet.
Mm.
Not something I would be. I'm terribly proud of. But nonetheless, I would look at this as a prototype. Thrown together really in a couple of in like an hour. So I think it's okay for a prototype. But this is pretty much putting all these widgets flat on this screen, although the tabs are sub widgets and the tiles are. Let's look at a tile, actually, I think would be a good one. So let me go here and click on the shop to button. All right, so right here's that tile I was talking about before. There is a lot actually kind of going on in here. So here's the animation. I just threw in the smoke literally because I had it, which is the worst reason to do any kind of UI decision. I was wondering if I wanted to see what it would feel like to give the selected tile some subtle movement to get your attention, but not be too distracting, and only ever do it one at a time, and that's what the goal was here. And I think it turned out okay,
I was gonna say, for
right?
what it's
It's
worth,
pretty
I don't
subtle.
think it's that bad. Yeah, I think it looks nice.
Better on these.
Yeah.
So again, notice like the dark shadow there, so we can take a quick look at that. All right, so there's a lot of stuff happening back here. I can start to turn some of it off, right? We've got our back plates. There's a smoke effect. Oh yeah, that's like a placeholder icon. Um, So I want to go this gradient. So first of all, there's this default state, right? And so we have this gradient backplate, and this is actually set to render opacity of zero point 0.2 right now. So it's mostly transparent. It's mostly translucent, very translucent, right? You could set it to 1, and you see it's much darker,
Mm.
right? But what we're doing is, so we're always giving the destination. Sorry, this was just the default text that carried over to this project from something else. So this could just say lorem ipsum or item name.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so this is just giving some baseline contrast to the title and price. Now we're going over the board here by giving it a lot of like shadow, like outline and shadow. So basically, I really wanted to play with the idea of using this like red theme color on here. And reds can be really hard to use to create contrast, especially when there's a busy background happening. And so I was really unhappy with how it was standing out. And so I definitely hit it really hard with contrast on the text. I added outline size 3, right, for the black border, and there's probably a shadow. Let's see here. Uh, yeah, there's an offset shadow, not too much, but there is a little bit. Probably go a little further. If I pull this to the right, yeah, you start to see. I know it's really hard to see probably because it's also dark. Sorry, folks, but you can see the shadow coming out
Mm.
to the right. You know, so here, like this is an exercise in making it having even a little more contrast. um, I don't know. How would it look if it had a little bit of red in there? Whoops. I don't know. Something is not letting my color come through right now. We'll just stick with black. Okay. So, yeah, okay, so then what happens is it animates up. So what we're doing is we are very quickly fading in the description text and raising it up. And the description text is pretty chunky also, just make it really easy to read. And it also has an outline setting. Um, and how are we raising it? In this case, what we're doing is we have this description size box. The description text is wrapped in the size box here. And what we're doing is we're animating the property called max desired height. In this case, it's a fine way to do it. So we go to right here, max desired height. Um, the number that we want to go to here is 264, is high enough. It could be higher, but that's fine in this case. And as you see, it's just raising the height of that box and revealing the text underneath it. Meanwhile, that's that one. Meanwhile, the text is rendering in from 0.2 or from 0 actually, to 100% opacity. We're also having this backplate. There's something called backplate highlighted. Where are you? That's this guy right here. That's that red. So that one is also animating in backplate highlighted from 0 to 1. So that red's coming in. When you start to add in all those layers, we have the smoke also. This is a placeholder icon. I wanted a really busy one to see how well, because my goal was to put a big piece of art behind it. And the art could be anything, right? Because in this case, we had so many different offers and entitlements. So you want it to be really, really robust, and able to stand out on top of a noisy background, visually noisy background. So we have the gradient backplate, another layer here. This guy is changing its colors. What's happening here? It's actually going from light to dark. I'm sorry. Yeah, dark to light. It's from a darker red to a lighter red. Um, and then the smoke image, because you got to bring in the smoke image. Um, because why not? The worst reason to do any kind of UI design. And there's that smoke image. Is coming in from opacity, so it's not present unless it's hovered, right? So together it's a really fast animation. Again, like you want it to be snappy to reveal the information, but then the animation happening on the back plate there is really slow and subtle. Okay. Um, so trying to follow a thread here. From verse we're triggering these animations via verse fields. Um, Gosh, Dan, I'm gonna start looping a lot past this point. So
A lot of these systems, depend on each other and stuff like that. So there's a lot of overlap.
exactly, yeah. Generally, I think trying to make a modular set of classes, where you're creating subclasses for your menus from some base class it's a good idea. It's something that helps you organize your project as it grows in complexity. But it's not necessary, right? These can be made again like far more manually. And then in the end, the verse code will look will be simpler in some ways. What happens is if you start to do that for everything and your project gets very large, suddenly you're having to change things in multiple places to keep them synced up. So that's why this subclassing approach is a good idea.
Yeah.
All right. So um the the special offers data here, again, that's just text coming in from verse. So if we go to that shop 3, I think, man, we did so many versions here. the one shared clock, so every player's menu shows the same time left, right? So this is important, right? This is not on a per player basis. This is for everybody, right? So we have a class that's just an int of seconds remaining, and let's see where countdown shows up. So we have a variable tracking as a countdown running. When the menu is shown, we start the countdown display. So there'll be an async timer in here. I did not build this part. I was fortunate enough to have someone add this to the project a little earlier today. So I have not a chance to look at this in detail. But here we're just formatting the string. Here we're just formatting text. Um, we're taking that number of total seconds and we're parsing it, right? And so we're doing that math to parse it. And in the end, what we're doing is getting this. We're creating hours, minutes, and seconds, right? And this function returns a string, right? And so here's that string. And what's happening is it returns a string because it's defined as returning a string over here. And then when we look at, let me close some of these and jump to number 3. The real number 3. Okay, and then we'll see a bunch of verse fields again. Let's go ahead and look for time. So time until new specials. So in this case, let's just pass it as a message, as text, which is perfectly fine. That makes sense. So we're doing all the work, all the heavy lifting in verse code here, right? So this is doing all the math that we need, and at the end we're saying we're just creating our string and we're passing it to the widget. And then, so that's happening over here. That's this guy right here. And the default text here is just set to say, 23H, 45M, just placeholder. So it's coming in via a binding. So let me go ahead and, what was it called? Oops. Oh, let's look for, so there are a lot of bindings. Those of you out there who are making awesome UI, thank you for bearing with the complexity that bindings can have sometimes. Here it is. Wait, that's the title.
I saw one that said special offer or featured
Oh,
offer.
great.
Is
Yeah,
that
I'm
it?
just scrolling. I'm just scrolling
Featured
too fast.
featured item, maybe?
Yeah, I probably skipped lunch and I'm getting a little dizzy. What's it called? Special?
Or featured, I think I saw something. I don't know if that's the right thing, but I saw it.
Yeah, featured item.
Featured item?
Oh no, featured item is the big
Is it the
tile.
item itself? Yeah.
Yeah, so here we're passing the title for it, and that. Well, it's fine. We can go. Let's go find it. So these are the category tabs. Category 1, 2, 3, and then 4 and 5 are down here somewhere. Uh, and then these are the uh, these are showing tabs. The pagination tabs.
Mhm.
Paging stack box, featured item, shop one. So this is item 1, 2, 3. So these are the 3 small ones here. Medium ones. These are the collapsible guys. It's probably at the bottom because I bet it's here under modal. So we have, I could probably just search for the name of this guy. Oh, here's the problem was, right? And this is you heard me earlier say it. Name your sub widgets properly. I just spent 5 minutes on live stream looking for something that was poorly named. Um, that's on me. Don't let it be on you.
It's a perfect
Um,
example of why
yeah,
naming conventions matter.
this guy should be called time left text. There we go. Um, and uh, and now let's hit compile. And hey, look how easy that was now.
Hey.
So time left text is this is a direct binding. There's no need to do a conversion function or anything. We're just taking that countdown text and we're setting the text property of this text widget to it. Yeah. And yeah, this one was especially on me because I tried to jam this feature in the last second here, and someone kindly did it. um, so, all right. So, yeah, I was trying to just trace. I was trying to trace the verse data to to UMG widget to data bindings connection path, right? Yeah, you might notice something down here actually. This is these are this was from duplicating the previous menu to create this one. These are the next and previous tab buttons. Let me show you what this is. So so technically this is still hooked up to use. So you can go to like consumables. Oh, sorry, vehicle gear, and you can hit C and Z, right, to change tabs, which is really handy, right? And on gamepad is just here we did right trigger and left trigger. So it's but on the other menu we had the horizontal tabs, right? In this case, the side tabs are still hooked up actually to the bumpers. So I can use the bumpers right now to change tabs. And that's an okay decision. Better to give players a convenient method to change tabs. It's not always the most usable approach. Just because of the way that the game pads are set up to be horizontal, that kind of a button click on the bumpers, it's far more intuitive when it's on a horizontal tab bar, right? Usually you would definitely want to put key binds on it. And it's a common pattern in a lot of games. Fortnite even did this for a while and probably does in some places still. But in this case, you don't really need it. There's not that many items. So like it's very easy to just navigate through whoops to navigate through on the gamepad to change these directly. All right. I feel like I'm kind of running out of stuff here, Dan.
I think the last thing you mentioned, maybe touching on, was the 3D
Oh, I
with the
forgot
camera
what
moving
was
around, moving the
okay.
camera around on the one with the witch.
You want me to change the camera?
No, the one with the
Oh,
witch that shows the camera
yeah.
moving around.
Oh, right, right,
I think
right.
you said you might touch on how you
Oh,
did
I
that.
did. Yeah, yeah. Calling me out on this stuff. No, good call.
Sorry.
No, it's good, good, good. So, here I'm using the gamepad, just navigate through these. Okay, so what's happening here is we're actually moving a camera around. And I can go over this at a really high level. Uh, a very talented tech designer spent a decent amount of time actually getting the animation, the camera behavior, the animation on the camera just right, and I think it's pretty good, honestly. It's definitely doable. And this was a really brief. This was really just meant to be a pretty raw demo. So, um, we could have set this up even better if we had more planning. But so what we'll see here. Also, there's the outdoor. There's a nothing focused camera, right? Which would only happen on gamepad when you're moving to the exit button. But there is a real use case for gamepad also. and untouched, there'd be that case as well. So what's happening here is we can go to that's shop 5, right? And subclasses are base shop. This is the one that's using some of the data in here that's having to do with cameras. So the first thing we'll see is we have a camera, a gameplay camera fixed point device. So I can show that. Whoops. In the world here. Let's fly into the haunted house. All right, so here we have so this guy out here, this camera, this is our overall camera. And then for each item, we have a camera. But we're actually just moving one camera around to this other camera position. So and that was just, you know, a quick prototype solution that we did at the moment here. You could totally have separate cameras. But what we wanted to do was actually kind of animate them a little bit. So what so we have these are named like fixed point camera 1, 2, right? And in here we have some decent commenting. So this is our main camera, right? That we're moving around. And let me jump to the camera stuff. I was looking at it before. So we have an array of those cameras, and scroll through this. All right, here we go. So there's a few things happening here, right? So we have a function to really find the camera spot associated for an item. This is all just done through a data setup. We're attaching a camera, and we're actually moving the camera to the new location. Is the strategy that we did here, and you can be in the middle of a movement and then cancel it. And then so what happens here is it can canceled and then it gets reset to its position. Um, uh, and then we have a function to actually to move the camera, and this gets canceled if there's another movement happening already. So there's actually a lot of logic involved in this behavior where CI can like cancel in the middle and it kind of like smoothly transitions. Um, if you want to like if you're planning, if you're thinking through all the different use cases and like how long it takes for your camera to move and how snappy do you want it to be, there's quite a lot to consider. There actually is a really good example of a different strategy of this that's in the UI feature example that you can get from just making a new project from the feature example. It's a driving game demo, and it uses a similar system, but doesn't teleport cameras. It just activates them to rotate a car around, to rotate your perspective on different cars that you can pick from. Um, so So yeah, I mean, there's a good amount of logic to account for, and use cases such as early exiting before transmission, before a transition finishes. Like as always, we you know, love to get these examples available to the public as soon as we can. These are in a very prototype state, so it may be some time. But the basis of these samples are already in the UI feature example.
I'm glad you brought that up. We had a few folks asking about exactly that. So
Yeah. And yeah, and again, it's you're just going to go to open project. It may not be like a workflow your people are totally familiar with. So you're going to go, normally you make a new project from scratch or something, but you can go to feature examples and click on UI, And then you just give it a name, and then it creates one for you. And that will have the menu example, and one of those menu examples has a 3D camera control.
Awesome. Well, I know we're running a little bit long. Did you have anything else that we wanted to tackle while we were here? I mean, as you said before, we
Oh,
could sit here and talk about UI forever. It's very easy to do.
no, I'm good. Yeah, we actually are over time. Look at that.
Yeah, if
Did it
you have a
again.
couple more minutes, we can do a quick rapid fire for some questions, if
Let's
that's
do
cool.
it.
Let's do it. All right. Let's see. One of the questions we had is it possible to change the virtual pointer circle to another texture?
Oh, that's a great question. It is not possible right now, but it is 100% on the like in the backlog. It's not to say it's not something planned. Would love to do it. We just need to create the right foundation for that. I think that's a very, reasonable thing to allow developers to want to do to change your pointer. Now you do have to the pointer that's in there right now, it was there is quite a good bit of thought put into it, you know. It's like when you see someone's like little concrete slab patio, there's a lot of actual engineering that goes into that concrete slab with the rebar and all that, right? So so you want to make sure that virtual pointer has like has good enough contrast. You want to make sure that it's sized. The size is large enough. Um, and you want to make sure it uses visual states to communicate the different behaviors, such as when it's being held down, and so forth. I think it would be awesome to include some options, and it'd be awesome to allow developers to also create their own. So I can't. There unfortunately is not a timeline I can share on that yet, but it is definitely something that we've heard requests for a lot, and something that we were tracking even before that.
This one's pretty subjective, right? Because it's going to depend on experience and all that sort of things. But I thought it might be kind of interesting. Somebody had a question. How long did it take you to make this UI?
Oh gosh, I am fortunate enough to have a couple of folks who are incredibly talented to help on that. It was kit bashed. What's funny is actually again, go ahead and like open up, make a project based on the UI feature example. What you'll see, the very first thing you can see in there, you hit a certain keyboard keybind. I forgot what it is, but it'll tell you on the HUD. Is a quick jump menu that teleports you throughout all the different stations in the UI feature example. I guess I'm on a live stream, so I should show it right now, but I don't have it handy, so unfortunately, I should have prepared for that. Sorry, Dan. But
No
that
worries.
menu should look eerily familiar to the very first shop menu, because that's what it is. When you saw some of the default text say destination, that's because we actually ported that from that menu. It's just a really good, clean, usable menu. It has keybinds for tabs, for subtabs, has an escape keybind, a close keybind, has really clear visuals. So that exact menu should be available to you right now. You can copy it and use it in your own game. Um, and basically we took that menu, and then we duplicated it like 5 times. And then basically I went in and then just started kit bashing things and taking pieces from different projects to make the UI look different. It's actually, shockingly easy to just like take that menu I was talking about and open up the rectangular buttons, the six that appear in the main menu. So those are all using the same base widget, right? So you change that base widget to look however you want. You can make it circular if you wanted to, right? You can make it have sharp edges. You can make it be a little bit askew, right? You can apply a material that gives it like a splatter effect, right? We have some of that in the Walking Dead UI IP work that exists in UEFN. Gives a complete different feeling, right? So suddenly these menus look very different, and you'll be surprised at how quickly these menus could start to look very different. So it didn't take me very long to do those. Uh, the real heavy lifting, I think, on what I showed today, was the base class created for the menus, and then the subclasses that each of those were. But again, you don't really have to do that on yours. You could use the that verse um in island transaction template I was showing before. When you add a new verse project, you can choose to use that verse template for in-island transactions, and you can use that as a basis to generate your data, and then you can use that to pass it to your own UI. And you can base that UI off something in the feature example, for example. Feature example, for example. I
Yeah.
don't
Oh,
know,
very.
but like it took a few hours to it took, I would say something like probably like, 4 hours of heads down work. I don't know, a couple Pink Floyd albums worth of uh worth of time.
I'm glad I'm not
Uh
the only one that measures in
yeah.
music.
Some of the creative work is the more fun stuff. You just put on headphones, which I never get a chance to do. So this was fun for me to try to show some different examples, for folks out there. Maybe it was inspiring. And there are some amazing, far better than what I showed today, menus out there being made for UEFN, made for in-island transactions and not also. Um, yeah, I mean, have a look at what's out there and get inspired.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Couple more rapid fire questions we have here. One of them was probably are, but worth asking. Are the menus responsible for mobile? Do we have ways to program that?
Yes, so everything I showed today works would work on mobile, because by default any UI you create is going to work on mobile. Um, and as of recently this year, and I was showing some verse code, briefly, uh, for that. We've added the ability to get the player's preferred input device. So what that means is, if the player is on a gamepad, that function is going to return gamepad. And if the player uses mouse, it'll return mouse and keyboard. So you could set up, you could be polling that, and whenever the player changes their input device, like moves the mouse after using gamepad because they're on PC, for example, it'll switch. There is an example of that in the UI feature example. We really do try to keep up with that project, to show the latest and greatest best practices and features. So you can adapt your UI to better fit the input device the player is using. Um, the goal is that everything should work in all input devices without you doing that. But as a developer, you have the agency to do that now.
Awesome. I know we're running really long. I don't want to keep you too much longer. You've already stayed longer than
Okay.
you're due, but we'll do one more quick question here, and that is there a way to set a default audio for the click/hovered states to a custom button? The UEFN button has it by default custom. The UEFN
Yeah.
button has it by default custom button. Doesn't have overrides.
Correct. Yeah, no, that's a good call out. That is tracked and something we want to improve. I believe, on the animation tracks, uh, you can add an audio track. Um, uh, so that is one means to play audio for a like a highlight or a click event.
Hmm.
But nope, that's a good that's good feedback. It's a good catch, and it's something that is that should be easier than it is right now. So
Yeah.
that is tracked. It's in the list. It's on the list.
Well, this was a great session. I personally really liked it, and based off of what I'm seeing in chat, it seems like they did too. Really appreciate you taking the time to come and do this. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover while we were here? Any last
Uh,
bits of advice? Anything to share with?
Gosh, I think I've said it all. Thanks, Dan. You're great. I appreciate your feedback through all of it. I'll just probably want to end it with that the same thing I started with. I mean, I think this is there's a lot of I think as a developer, you should hold these kind of shop menus to the highest usability bar you possibly can. If anywhere in in the game or experience you're making, I think this is the place to make it really usable. I think players will appreciate clarity. They'll appreciate being able to glance at the menu and take it in quickly generally, and they'll appreciate having good descriptions that actually help you understand the purpose and meaning of something. Will the item be consumed when it used? Will it not? You can't make that clear enough. And balancing that with making it feel good in the world, can be, or feel like part of your lore can be challenging, right? Not gonna lie, that cursed item stuff I started with, I was like, haha, I'll be a little funny here. And then I found myself like, oh my gosh, I'm doing the thing. Like I'm a UX designer, and here I am, like I stumbled into bad UX, and I was like, I'll use this as a learning moment, as a teaching moment. And it's very true, right? I was trying to, like, hey, ooh, it's the cursed shop, right? It's scary. But if players are actually spending V-Bucks on it that they might have acquired with real money and so forth, that's a very delicate place. Like you want to go as far as you can and into clarity and usability in that case. That's
Absolutely.
we'd be happy to end it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think UI is probably the easiest example of like you put in a lot of work for something that hopefully you don't even think you hope that people don't even think about. You hope they just get in there, they start navigating, they do what they need to, and then they get out. And if as long as they've enjoyed that process and they're not constantly going like, I don't know where to find this thing, I don't know what does this mean? What is, is it healing me instantly? How long is a period of time? Like if they're asking all those sorts of questions, then that means that your UI probably could use a little bit more refinement. So
Right on. Love it, Dan.
well, again, Derek, thank you so much for coming on to do this and share all this still cool stuff with us. I think it's really great, and I really appreciate it taking the time to do this.
Sure thing. My pleasure. Have a great
Uh,
day.
all
Bye,
right,
folks.
folks. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this survey into the chat one last time for you. Please put it in here, or please fill this out. Even if you filled it out on previous streams, that's okay. We're still looking for your feedback. So go ahead, take a few minutes to submit that for us. We would greatly appreciate it. And that is going to wrap up this week's Reading in Fortnite. Huge shout out to you all for joining us today. This show would not be what it is without you, your time, and your questions. If you came through the show partway through and would like to rewatch a section, don't worry. We post all of our all of our streams in VOD format on both our Twitch and YouTube channel. And please head over to the EDC, the Epic Developer Community, where we have all our documentation that we've shown a few things here in this stream as well. Tutorials, forums, and so much more. But with that, we will see you all in the next Reading in Fortnite. Bye, everybody.